I'm going to start the recording. Now we are being recorded, and there's just a few things I want to say before we start, just connected to and concerning your trip to Iceland, just to get things cleared up for that. Some people are starting to book on booking.com for, the prior nights to our 5-day intensive. So I'm just going to go to clear up if there's anything that's not clear yet. Saturday morning, the 20th, I'm hoping everybody will be there at the center, the house, the guest house. We will start in the morning around 9 or 10 after breakfast, and we will work the whole day and end the day with examinations. And I'm hoping that we'll be finished by around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's a pretty full day for us on the Saturday. Sunday is a free day, and I'm still waiting for an offer from a friend who is in the travel business to take us nice places. Okay, just a second here. She can't get on. Okay, I need to resend to Cynthia. I did send her, but sometimes I sent 2 links, one for this one and one for the other. And so I don't know why they shouldn't be getting in here. Okay, let me check. I'm going to turn off the recording, so please somebody tell me. So I just wanted...
One quick question about Iceland. Do you accept euros in Iceland? Should we bring euros? What currency do you accept in Iceland?
Oh, it's Icelandic kronas. So you can use your credit cards and debit cards here in Iceland, and you just get the Icelandic currency from any machines like that, and you can go into the banks and exchange any kind of currency here, of course, as anywhere else. So it should be easy for you to get the kind of money that we use here. And if you pay, in some places you can pay with dollars or euros, no, but we do have Icelandic krona. Yes, and I just wanted to go over again, it's the Saturday, and we are going to be teaching and working at the hostel, the guest house. Sunday, for those who want to, we'll be traveling. Sunday evening, we're all everybody is expected to be there at the guest house. And food for the weekend is your responsibility. We will not be responsible for your food over the weekend. We can help you to go into grocery stores and get the kind of foods you need for the weekend. However, at Monday morning through Friday lunch, you will be provided abstinent food. And the abstinent food is, we will, of course, need to know what kind of abstinence you have been using and has been successful for you. We will not force feed anybody, but we do, and we will teach you different ways, and we will try to individualize food plans for each person through the week. And I think you will, benefit from trying different things. Please send me or Agnes individually posts on any concerns about food, about allergies, or any kind of problems that you have, so that we can be mindful of that. We will mostly have a lot of wonderful Icelandic lamb and meat, which is basically and mostly uh, you know, probably the best meat you get in the world, and the fish here is cost excellent. And all the Icelandic vegetables and everything that we get here is for the most part organic and has wonderful flavors. So I think you're gonna like the food here. We're gonna have a lot of vegetables. We're gonna have fruits. Of course, the fruits are not from Iceland. And so you will get the foods that you will need, and we will, to the best of our ability, try to accommodate each and every one for that. So once you have finished on the Friday, 26th, the 5-day, which is going to be, what we're going to be doing on the 5 days is basically go through a treatment program for the you know, and food-wise, it's going to be on a continuous basis. You will learn by doing also in the kitchen, and somebody can somebody who is not muted, please mute. And then we will have discussions, and then you will do your projects, and we will, yeah, and you will get the program for this at a later date. On the Friday, I'm suggesting that you not leave the country on Friday. That's a little difficult to do, except if you really need to. So because flights to the States are usually 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it takes like 2 hours to get from our place, and longer if you're going to do buses, much longer. So that is just if somebody was able to drive you there. I would kind of suggest that if you don't have a rental car, or you're not sure of how you're going to get around, that you might want to move to another guest accommodation, maybe in Reykjavik area. Maybe you want to see something there. It's a really, really nice capital in Iceland. And or if you want to be closer to where I live and to get my assistance, which will be very, you know, very open, to find something maybe in Eyrarbakki, which is my little town. And Agnes actually found a an ad that was taken in this little town, and I'm actually going to send you that so that you can look at it. It's really a nice and fun ad that you might want to see. So I'm going to send that to you, or have her send that to you by mail, so you can see the little historical town I live in. And there is some there's a way to, there's guest houses and places to stay here also. Some of us on Saturday morning, we're going to go to the Blue Lagoon on the way to the airport. There's also on, like, the Blue Lagoon opens at 8 o'clock in the morning, I think. And so for anybody coming from, that is from the States, you are going to be arriving here in Iceland very early, 6, 7 o'clock. And you might want to go and do the Blue Lagoon on the way to Reykjavik and then to Selfoss. And I will try to get you more directions about how to get buses. And just let me know what you need, and I'll find ways to get you the information. And the information is also on the web, of course, but I'd be happy to assist you in any of that. So whatever and however long you're going to stay over the weekend, if you need any help with it, I'm open to assisting you. But there's a lot of interesting things to do here in Iceland. You really might want to spend the weekend doing something fun, and I hope you do, and make the most of your trip here to Iceland. In May at this time, it may be very nice, the weather may be very nice, and it may really be really cold. You never know at this time. it's starting to be spring, and you will most likely not have snow at this time. But even that might be a possibility, but I don't think so. Not at that time. But it could be really cold still. So I will also send you information on what kind of clothing. But I would have a lot of warm clothing for coming here, so that you can and will enjoy walking outside, and as we go on the trip to the geyser and the glaciers and stuff, that you're warm. It's better to be warm. So any questions on this before I go on? And we'll start talking about assessment. Any questions? Okay. Okie dokie. So, yeah, I'm just going to say that Teresa Wright is going to be coming in 2 hours and doing her PowerPoints and her introduction on her work. And I'm excited to have her. And yeah, one thing I wanted to check with you was if you all got the material that I sent you. I sent you via WeTransfer, which is something that is very easy and you should be able to download right into your computer. All the materials is still in Dropbox, and you should be able to access Dropbox. There shouldn't be anything that, from my part, that makes your Dropbox heavy or closed, and you should be able to, even if if it is full, your Dropbox, you should be able to find a way to get to my shared folders. But please let me know if you still have problems with it, so I can help you and assist you. But until then, we have both ways, so I'll get all the material to you either way. And if you need it by mail or some other different way, just please tell me, and I'll get the material to you. And I hope you got, and one thing that you need to know is that WeTransfer, it deletes itself in a few days. So you can't wait too long to download it on your computer. It will delete. So maybe in 4 to 6 days or something. I don't know how many days, but you will have a few days to download it. Okay. So assessment. For those that have viewed the material I sent out yesterday, I sent out a lot of material yesterday, and which is in connection with this chapter. And it is all something that you can and will probably use in the intake and assessment and orientation process that we will kind of and hopefully finalize to next weekend as we get a Bitten's input on assessing, mapping, and screening. And also I sent you a kit, a professional kit that we did at Food Addiction Institute for UMass, which is introductory material for professionals. And there's a lot of good material in it. It's the same as we did here in Iceland, me and our organization here for food addiction rights, the rights movement here in Iceland, and we send it out to all health practitioners in Iceland, actually. It's a larger file, actually, but it's about 60 pages, but it's well worth going over, and I'm pretty sure you benefit from it all. I also sent, I set up a document for definitions for addictions and for what I could find for food addiction. And so there's a file on that also. And as we are really haven't gotten the World Health Organization or the International Classification of Disease, the ICD-10 or the DSM, they haven't, quite put the definition on food addiction yet. We do have the ASAM, which is the American Society of Addiction Medicine, that has set out a definition on addiction as a brain disorder, and they include food within that, among other things. It's still being considered pretty much if it is a behavioral and or what's the word for it? Yeah, I can't remember the word for it. Behavioral, or what's the word for it? Somebody, when you
biochemical, maybe?
No, when you are dependent on a substance. What's the word again?
Attachment?
No. It's a specific word. You all know it. We talked about it. It's just,
addiction, attachment, dependence.
Tolerance?
Well, we'll find, it will come to us. It will come to us.
Tolerance?
No. That's the consequence of it. Isn't it amazing when words just do not come, and it's words that
habit forming
substances. Oh, there's a word for it. We'll get it. I'll get it. I will remember. It will come to me. So you know what I'm talking about. It's a question of if it is the substance or the behavior. And my sense is that we will, with any kind of substance abuse, there's both. And
sensitivity can be a sensitivity or reaction to it.
No, dependence.
Dependence.
Yes. Okay. Substances that you become dependent on, like alcohol, like food, like heroin and tobacco and all of that stuff. So whatever, that word is, somebody with a dog is unmuted. So
it may be biological or physiological versus,
No. It's just a special. Don't bother with it. It will come. We have the understanding. So it's the what I'm saying is that I think we will find with food, as with other substances, that we are having both behavioral dependence and the substance abuse dependence.
Oh,
Chemical, there you go, David. Chemical dependency. Thank you. There you go.
Esther, I think that it's definitely a behavioral and a biophysiological, because there are patterns that develop, and now they become the default, and it's, I don't think really we can separate what's happening brain-wise in the reptilian brain and in the cognitive brain and in the emotional brain. If we take Daniel's model of triune brain, which is a very simplistic model, but Vera was talking about it a little bit, and so I personally don't think it can be separated.
Thank you for that, Lior, and I totally agree. But we do need more research on this aspect, and this is what the DSM team wanted to have more research on before they would define or even consider food addiction, really as part of a disease, as a disease. at this point. So we'll see what happens with it. I think they're going to be pushed to start doing something more with it. So anyway, you will have all kinds of new material to look at, and I hope in the week to come you will view all of that, and you will you know, maybe print it out so you have in a folder what kind of material you would need and want to have. And at one point in the chapter here, they kind of expect you to do this and to even make your own documents, so that with the questions that you feel that you need to ask the client. I also set up the MFM intake questionnaire, and you can of course use that one. I think it's a pretty good one for its use, and it can be extended, you know, for whatever reasons you feel you need. And again, because the diversity in the group is so, you know, we have you know, like Susa, who's a psychiatrist, you know, and we have all these different professionals in this course, which will and you guys, you probably will be asking different kind of questions anyways, but the substance is here, and let's just start going over that. So what we're asked here to do is to identify the characteristics of food abuse, and so that is why I kind of gave you the definition part. Identify other problems associated with food abuse. That is something that we might need to talk about as time goes. That is, of course, and it's talked about in this chapter, you know, what's the surroundings, are there other addictions, other psychological diseases, or something else to consider health-wise or whatever. And so we are learning about different aspects of assessing the ASM, the DSM, and then the different mapping, screening, and assessment tools that we have been using, me and Acorn, and then Bitten and others. So I guess you just, you know, I'm not going to go over it in detail here. It's something that we need to learn is, of course, the criteria, the global criteria, and how the ICNRC defines the procedures. This is always at the first, in the beginning of each chapter, and you need to familiarize yourselves with this. Because this is part of, could be part of the examination questions. And so here, as we talk about the global criteria, we have 4 things that we are, well, there's different here that is talking about getting the history, and the information needed for a person. And again, in this procedure, within the parameters of this workbook, it arrives from alcohol and drug abuse, and we know that they are much more advanced in committing people to different treatments than we are. And again, we need to, I think it's very beneficial for us to understand and learn the different stages of treatment that need to be and are as needed for food addicts as they are for other substance abusers. of course, if you have a heroin addict or a really bummed out alcoholic, you know, they really need to be institutionalized. But then we have a lot of food addicts that are dying of their eating, and they can't get out of their house because of their addiction. They've become so overweight or health-wise so decapitated that you know, these people are the bums, the food addiction bums. They smell as a bum would do, and they can't care for themselves as a bum in any way or fashion. So we really have addicts, you know, coming from that aspect, being so sick that they would just need to be committed to a hospital setting or an institution that would really have doctors and nurses to assist in the process of getting them abstinent and nurse them into recovery. And then, of course, we have all the other stages of it. So this is why we have, you know, we're learning this, you know, because we are in the grassroots of this movement here. As Vera said, yes, last time we're kind of in the trenches. We are kind of almost like a political movement on its way in this field. And but for most of us, we're going to be out there working in an outpatient way, I guess. So select appropriate assessment tools. This is why we need to have. Yes. Yes, please. Go ahead.
In number 13, identify methods and procedures for obtaining corroborative information, the consents and everything. The question that came up when I was reading was, if it's an adult, if it's a minor, obviously we don't need a consent. But if it's an adult, and because they talk about coming and getting information from family members or close people, would we need a consent from the client, the potential patient, in order to really get the information from, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a friend, clarification on that?
Well, obviously, if it kind of depends on the in what condition the person is, and if the person is, you know, like in a very, very advanced stage of addiction and dying of it or something, you know, there might be a need, as in any other addiction, to have the relationships just totally take up, you know, the right of the person. I don't know the English name for it, you know, just. But of course, it is only for the minors that we need the parental consent. But in some way, we need a consent from the person in the intake process. We will have to get them on board with what we're doing with them. And in the addiction field in general, when you are working with people in addictions, like in any addiction, and you are admitting a person into like a detox period of like 7 to 10 days, which is like a very for alcohol and drugs, if we would say that's kind of the time that people need for detoxing. And then it's recommended that they take an extended a month or something, usually. You know, if a person in the second or third or fourth day of detoxification wants to leave, you can't stop the person. You really can't stop the person, and they will have to be let go. And it's the same with people with food addiction. They will they will want to come in as they are desperate to do what they need to do. But especially if they are severely having, withdrawal symptoms, severe withdrawal symptoms, and their mind gets to play the trick on them, they will tell themselves that they can do this, or they'd rather do it at a later time, or whatever, and leave the treatment. And that happens quite often. Happens quite often. And I know here in Iceland. Yeah, question?
Yes, in this case, have you seen any difference in if the context of the treatment includes some spiritual practice, like in the 12 steps? Maybe in that case it's more helpful to make the person understand and keep on with the treatment, or it's regardless of these spiritual ingredients that maybe can help in this regard?
Well, a lot of treatments for addiction are based on some kind of knowledge of 12-step recovery, which is in one way a spiritual treatment way. But when you have a person that is in acute withdrawal, and you may and that can be a food addict as well as any other addict. In the first days, if they are feeling like this is not the thing for them, they will just leave, and they will have to do that and come as the window opens up again for them at a later date. And at that point, you haven't really been able to apply much therapy or knowledge or anything for the person. They are just in the grips of the addiction, in the grips of their disease. And so I don't know, for this is why basically, the addiction as a disease has been set under psychological, and psychiatry, so that it is possible to incarcerate people within an institution. I think that's the word for it, if it's needed. So, but even when you have like teenagers, it may be very hard to do so, to keep them if they don't want to go into recovery. And this is the hard thing about working with addictions, whether it is eating or food addiction or any other addiction. It's the disease will tell the person that the only right thing to do now is to go and have something to eat, or to go or have something to drink, or whatever it is that the person is using. Okay, so let's
Esther,
go.
in the case of teenagers, as they are minors, what's the law? How does the law stand on that? I mean, can the parents sign and force the individual to stay in treatment, or even though they are minors, they can still decide for themselves?
I can only talk for Iceland, and I know that even with teenagers that are in severe danger of overusing of drugs and alcohol, it is very hard, even for parents, to institutionalize their children. And it's always ethically also very has been, there's been a lot of debate around that. But and with children and food addiction, that's another category, and it's all together, and it's not really. I must admit, that it's something that I haven't really done much of to help younger kids and teenagers. I tried, And I try to work with the families of teenagers in real problems and trouble, and because I believe that if a person is going to recover, a younger person, the whole family needs to be included in the treatment. And the family needs to be willing to do what they are asking and requesting of the teenager or the child. And I don't have a lot of success with that. But it's my hope that, you know, maybe a group of you guys will form a wonderful recovery program for children and teenagers. Who knows? So if we continue here, explain to the patient the rationale for the use of assessment techniques. It's you know, there we're just going over explanations, you know, explaining why are we asking those questions, why. And, you know, my rationale behind all question taking and information taking is that I want to individualize the treatment. As I say, okay, now we are evaluating what kind of treatment. Well, first of all, if you have a disease, then if you have it, what kind of background you have, so that I can determine with you what kind of treatment might be right for you. This is the kind of talking that I do with my clients. And I always feel that it is the most beneficial when, you know, it's not me saying, okay, now you're a food addict, now you need to do da, 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 da. No, I never, as I said last time, I never say you are something, but I say, okay, as you see from these screening and assessment tools, what they say is pretty accurate. So you draw your own conclusions from what the questionnaires are saying. And if you see that they may be right, let's continue into seeing what kind of treatment would be good for you. And I try to get people on board with whatever treatment I have, and or something different, like 12-step, and sometimes I invite people to go out there and do, you know, like some healthy food plan or whatever, you know, they think they still may be able to do if they're in that state. And it is very important that they know that their information will not be shared except if we have a consent from them. So we need to also access and check on all kinds of different background informations, and then that will come also. And then here I wanted to go over the stages of change. It's the pre-contemplation, the contemplation, the preparation, action, maintenance, and relapse. And I think it's good for us to go over these because, you know, and kind of sense in where the person is in this stage. I would think that most people that come into my treatment center, they're ready for action. They have usually heard about somebody that lost a lot of weight, you know, and so they're happy to do whatever and even go to treatment for food addiction, you know, even though they don't think really maybe, you know, in the back of the mind that there's so much of a food addict, but it seems to be something that works. So I get a lot of people with that kind of thinking coming in. Other people like maybe Sandra or somebody who is working, you know, within the obesity sector, you know, getting people in that just simply have a problem, and you are kind of fishing them in there to help them to see what is really happening in their lives, that's a very, very delicate stage. And it requires the counselor to be very delicate and very aware and professional, basically, I would say, to get the person through the pre-contemplation, which is, of course, you know, not feeling that they really, you know, they know that they need to maybe lose the weight or eat less junk food or whatever, but not really thought much about it. Then the second stage is when the patient is told or they have had consequences with health or weight, or if they're doing some of the eating disorder behaviorals, you know, they're having consequences because of that if they start thinking about something, and maybe at that stage somebody has told them that they need to do something, like a doctor or a professional, someone, or a parent or a spouse or somebody or a friend or somebody. Preparation is the third stage. So once the person has decided that they are going to do something, you know, that's a pretty good stage to have a person, you know, because then they've made a decision. It's as they say there, it's a window of opportunity, but know that it is only for a limited period of time. It is amazing how short a time period it is. So I suggest, if you find that in a client, that there is an opening, really fish them in and let's do something and explain what the person can do. So what are you willing to do? And let's start doing it right now. Let's not wait. Let's start doing something right now. Because when a person gets into the action states, and they will, in a few days, they usually will start feeling better and stronger. And except for the people that go into acute withdrawal symptoms, they will need more attention. Okay. So then we get the action states, get them in there, really have them invested in the kind of treatment that we have. And, you know, what kind of a treatment is that? You know, that is something that we're going to be talking about for the remainder of the into spring, you know, because there's going to be different ways of doing that. But then there's maintenance, and then there is relapse. And it may be interesting for people to see the relapse part, because but for addiction, relapse is a part of the disease. You will have relapse in one way or another. Everybody does. And so once you just really take that in as a counselor, you will, you know, basically start working on the relapse as you start working with the person. So what kind of a relapse is the person, you know, are you going to prepare the person for? And we will be going more into that within working on the different treatments. And so I'm not going to use a lot of time for that at this point. But it is, as it says here, it's the final stage in the change cycle. Relapse is not always a bad thing. It can be a very good thing for a person. It can be the only thing that can assure the person that they really have a problem. So for most, to have a relapse is to understand the disease and the severity of the problem in a deeper level. So here we are on the activity of states of change. And I don't know how much work you did within your study groups this week, but I would encourage you to review Anna's story. And does anybody anybody do that and have an answer for this one?
We did, and we really weren't 100% sure because it seemed like in the first assessment she was like in pre-contemplation. She wasn't really there at all to engage in treatment. And on the second part, we were in a bit of a dilemma because maybe she's in contemplation, she's considering treatment.
Oh, I can't really hear you, Lior. Lior?
To sign the consent. So, yeah.
You're breaking up.
I don't know what's wrong with my internet. It's not. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're better now.
Okay, I said in the first part of the interview, we thought she was in pre-contemplation. She was not ready. She didn't seem to think she had a problem. The second part of the interview, we weren't 100% sure. We thought maybe she's in contemplation, so she did come back. She was more open to and gave more information. And yet there was a lot of ambivalence because in the end, in the next chapter, when we talked about the consent, we found out she wasn't willing to sign the consent. So she really wasn't, she was like on the fence kind of thing. So that's what we came to the conclusion of, that she wasn't really 100% ready to move forward and needed more work in helping her get to that place.
Yeah. That's a very, very good observation, Lior. And I think with Anna, she might need to relapse a few times, before understanding the severity. But of course, we don't know. But I agree with what your observation. I think it's a very good one. Thank you for that. And we got you there. So the next one, if there's no other comments on that one, so it's a question of the withdrawal symptoms there, because we need to kind of know if a person, when she decides to stop eating those specific foods, has had withdrawal symptoms. So I think it is very important. Oh, okay. David Wolf says here on the group chat that Pruska and De Clement have a book written called Changing for Good. And there you can go more into those stages. Thank you, David, for that. So, so the withdrawal form, which is actually going to be finalized hopefully by next weekend by me, Bitten, and Teresa, maybe some others, we can use, and but it is I usually use more simplified, just one question. Do you have any kind of withdrawal symptoms and how severe are they? Are you so I kind of try to get that in the questionnaires that I use.
So I have a question again, Esther.
Yeah.
Anna described that she has headaches and she's never gone to a doctor about them. Now, what the question that came up when Monica and I were talking, and I don't know if Romina was in at that part or not, but I said maybe these headaches are part of withdrawal and she's not even aware of it. And so if someone says, no, I don't have any withdrawal symptoms, but they are having what we might recognize as withdrawal, or that might be, how would you ask a question to help them clarify that it's not just a headache because of a headache, but it really is withdrawal? Because she also talks about the irritability, the nervousness, it could be also a mental, emotional thing, and it also could be due to the allergy phenomenon, the cravings, the withdrawal. So how
Right.
to tease that out and sort of get them in the right category, right?
Well, I asked if she has any, it may be for like in the screening process, and as you are in the preliminary questionnaires with people, to ask, have you ever tried to stop using sugar, grains, any of these foods? And when you did so, did you have any physical or mental or emotional symptoms? You don't even have to say withdrawal symptoms, because people might not connect to actually that word in the beginning, because they are all in the diet mentality, they're not thinking addiction. And so finding vocabulary that a client understands and can accept is, I think, very, very important. So these are good questions, Lior. So once you say it in this way, then you can actually describe to a person, okay, this is considered to be withdrawal symptoms. And then the person knows and is wiser for it.
Esther, may I ask a question? This is Sherry.
Yes.
The way the questions typically when someone is, I guess it would depend when you're doing assessment, because typically when someone first comes to you, they're not abstinent. So yeah. It's hard to say, do you feel now, like you were saying, you have to go back to the times that they have, quote unquote, maybe dieted, to be able to figure out the potential for withdrawal.
Yes, symptoms. Absolutely. Absolutely, and I was, for the most part, people will be, in the brain fog of using. People are under the influence.
One of the things that we discussed, Esther Helga and others, was doing a food journal and symptomatology. So writing down, 3 days of what their food was and what times, and then also what the symptoms were that they were having those 3 days.
Right.
So that there might be some understanding, and it might take 5 days for some people to but at least then you would know whether they were abstaining from anything, because many of the people that I've met have said that they're abstaining, but when you talk with them a little bit more, they aren't in withdrawal because they're not abstinent.
Yeah, right. And then there is the question of, which I always find very important, is that, you get the time to be sure that they get the information on how they are going to be abstinent. And, what is it that they need to abstain from? Because if you get the regular person, they will not understand the kind of the things that they need to abstain from, and it takes a while for them to learn that. And this is why I have a whole weekend of just learning why and what we're taking out of, what kind of foods we are not eating, what kind of foods we are eating, and how and in what portions and all of that. It takes, it's not a simple thing. That's what I'm kind of saying. It's not a simple thing, but you can actually start them off with this kind of a journal, and I quite often have done so. I've had like short evening seminars, just going over the kind of foods to abstain from, setting up dishes, portion sizes, estimation of portion sizes and journaling and things like that. So that's a really, really good idea for somebody who is contemplating on change and wanting to do something, not being sure if they're really having a problem. Something like that would be very, very beneficial for a person. So try that for a week and come back. Something like that would be very interesting. And I've done that multiple times with people that are unsure that they are really that big of a addicts at all. And it may take like a year. Quite often I've had people, coming occasionally within a year, understanding more and more as the year passes that they are they lose themselves in usage, some kind of using of food or drink or whatever, and they become more understanding of coming into treatment that will mean a more severe abstinence for them. Okay, that was a good input too. So, question of referrals always, as we see people that have different, psychological difficulties, physical diseases, to have them go check them out. I usually talk about them going to their physicians or the MDs that, or their healthcare center to be checked out, even, and I really, really recommend for my clients to do this in the beginning of treatment, and then going again in 2 or 3 months. And the history shows that when people do that, the changes in their health is so dramatic that the health practitioners become really excited about it, I'm telling you. So that is something I do recommend. And of course, if people are having physical ailments, to have them address that. So often people come in and, when they have been going with different symptoms to their physicians or wherever, it's all been blamed on their eating and overweight. So once they get that under control, they're in treatment and their food is under control, and they still have persistent symptoms of something, that is also going to be, I think we need to encourage them to go and have themselves checked. I've had people in the beginning stages of cancer come to me, and as they got abstinent, they needed to go into cancer treatment, and that had not been acknowledged until afterwards. So, for example, and all different kinds of diseases can be developing underneath and are usually. So I take education and occupational history, and in the initial when I take the first form and do the first 1 or 2 sessions assessing people, I will take history and the family history and psychological and medical and all of that. But then I have a questionnaire, and I need to find the one in English that I may send to you. That needs to actually be, that one needs to be kind of moderated. It's a little harsh, a little too personal in some ways. But I do have people get questionnaires about deeper personal issues like family issues, abuse, their relationships, children, their history in general as a basis on doing work with what's really underneath the addiction. And for most people, that is some kind of trauma. Yes, and talking about trauma, I said I also put in one instrument from the ACE to get the ACE score, and I encourage you to take a look at the ACE score, because that is questions. If you really feel that a person has been traumatized, and is coming from that kind of background, maybe not in the first initial, you may ask simple questions. Have you been emotionally, mentally, physically, sexually abused? I do ask those questions, but the ACE scale could come, as something that you would ask them to answer maybe on a later date. So next we have the ASAM dimensional criteria. And before we do that one, I think we should have like a 3-minute pause. What do you think of that? Just a little pause to go, a restroom pause. And I am going to try to get, let's see here. There you go. I'm going to stop the recording. Wow. And mute. Okay. Okay. Okay, first call back. I should sing a song or something.
What's the meaning of?
I should sing a song to get you all back. An Icelandic song or something. What do you think of that?
What does AC stand for? Because I cannot see in the form that you sent us with the form itself. There's an explanation, but I cannot find the ACE. What's the stand? The letter.
Romina, I can't. You're breaking up, so I can't really hear your question.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to, I'm reading in the form that you sent regarding the AC form, the AC score, and I cannot find what the ACE stands for.
Oh, it's
abuse, something.
ACE study. Just go online, and it's one of the largest studies.
Yeah.
About the effects of abuse.
Yes, but I know, but I just wanted to know what exactly ACE stands for. Because maybe okay. Okay.
I can't remember on top of my mind.
Okay, thanks.
Can't remember on top of my mind. Okay, so back to ASAM dimensional criteria. And so here we have, before we had the, we had the questions, levels of change. Now we have the dimensions based on the levels of care from ASAM. And the 6 dimensions that we're taking a look at is acute intoxication and withdrawal potential, all of these 6.
Sorry, yes. Just in case for others, it's adverse childhood experiences.
A what?
Adverse childhood experiences.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Romina, that was nice. Okay, so this is what we're kind of evaluating here, which is these are, these are all symptoms that we are really, taking a look at within the other, in the questionnaires. And all of these, like the ASM and then the DSM, it's all actually to get the same kind of information out, how acute, what kind of levels of treatment, what's the background, and how is the person gonna,
You're not recording.
Oh, thank you. Okay, let me see here. I need you guys. Resume recording. Here I go. Thank you, David.
Esther, I had a question.
Yes.
It's Judy.
Yeah.
Regarding the ASAM, later on in the chapter, it showed a couple of case studies and gave examples of where they would stand in the ASAM. And I wondered, are you going to speak to whether something is high or high medium or this or that? Because I have no clue, and I didn't see it in the reading unless I missed it. You could direct me to that. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. That's a good question, and we'll see if we can get to it. If not now, we'll get to it next weekend. So let's see how far we can go with that. Did you guys see this one here, the patient placement criteria? Oh, I'm sorry about the dog here.
I was working with it and looking, in the two case studies they gave. It's very helpful having the two different,
Can't really hear you, Leor. It's very hard to hear you.
I'm just saying I like it a lot. It's very helpful.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
So what this one shows basically, and to you and everybody, is it's a very good chart because it shows. I'm gonna just set it up here because it shows the level of treatment levels and then the dimensions on the side. And as we talk to the person, we just need to evaluate, is the person at a significant risk of withdrawal, biochemical, emotional, behavioral, and if a person like on this form is not, they would be in an early level, early intervention. If it's severe, then they would be on a level of residential. So that's basically how we kind of evaluate the patient or the client. We'll just see, and that we will only get in questioning and asking and getting the background information for the person.
Did you, it's Judy again.
Yes.
Are you referring to me with this chart? Because I use this chart, but it doesn't still show the high, medium, or whatever. I mean, that's fine. I thought the chart was very helpful, and our study group also used it. So
yes.
Great layout. But in the case studies, it just refers to things more specifically. It's fine. I just want to, if we get to it later, that would be great.
Yeah, like in the stories, I think it's an excellent thing to talk about, because anything that people aren't clear about. Where is this here? Yeah, here it is. Like the police officer.
Yep.
And the football star. Yeah. I had to. My imagination had to kind of work its way through these stories, and you know what comes out of these stories. This is what you're asking. You know, what's the medium and what's not. You know, that's the levels I would say that would be the level. 0.5, level 1 outpatient, level 2 intensive outpatient, or level 3 residential. That's how kind of we measure that out. I hope I am understanding your question, Judy. I'm not sure though.
Well, I guess I that somewhere in this it talked about related to the ASAM dimensions, that
Yes.
something could be listed high on a dimension, or they could be listed medium high, or
Yeah.
is that true? I mean, and I don't understand anywhere.
Yeah. You don't understand.
What's high, what's medium, what's low, or
Okay, I see what you mean.
okay, that's, and maybe nobody else had that question, but I looked and
No. It's a valid question, and basically, I think that's how we just need to value the person. How severe is the problem for a person, and to just set it up as and it is maybe the wording in how they word it, and we word it in the description of the two stories there in the back, in relations with then the form of the treatment levels and or the dimensions, and so I think maybe I just want to think about it a little bit, Judy, and I think actually it's a question of wording rather than anything else, and finding ways to see, like a medium level would be something in a level 1 or 2 of the treatment levels from ASAM in the former chapter that you see in the form. So that would, in my mind, be a medium level. And early level or low risk level would be the first one. High risk would be level 3, which is inpatient. So it's a question of understanding basically what kind of treatment a person would need, what kind of risk the person is in, and where would be appropriate to ask, recommend the person what kind of treatment.
Esther,
So, yeah.
for the withdrawal as a dimension, you've got level 3 residential still at minimal risk of withdrawal, but earlier you talked about some people leave treatment because they don't like the withdrawal. Wouldn't that be something that would be a little bit higher than minimal risk?
Well, if you have a person that you know that has a real severe withdrawal symptoms in the past, if you have a way of getting that person into some kind of a detox situation, I would always recommend that, always. But for the most part, we don't have that kind of help for people, and so we would need to. What I have done, like for example here within my treatment center, is that I offer support through phone and internet, so that they, in the first days when they come into treatment, they can call me, and they're supposed to call me and get help and support during their withdrawals. And I try to have sessions with the group, like on the weekend, for the most part, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then on a Monday and a Wednesday, and then next week on a Monday and a Wednesday, and then less and less, maybe once a week for 3 weeks or something. That's kind of that's the kind of model that I do for my outpatient. in order to assist them go through and go through a withdrawal phase. But it's not an inpatient service, but it is as close as possible with with what I can offer or what is offered. So I hope that answers the question too. I think once we go into those dimensions and the levels and all of that, I think we will come out of it as we study the form, like my form of questions, in order to get background information. Once you sit down with a person and you just ask those questions, you go through the form, you have them do the assessment questions, and you see out of the two what kind of background that person has, and in concern with weight and eating behaviors, if they are if they have the genes or their family seems to have the addiction genes, if they've had trauma, if they have medical problems. You have all this information after an interview like this, and then you see the severity of the disease within the screening and assessment questionnaires. Then you have, after that kind of an interview, you should have a really good sense of where that person is at. And you get the sense of it, and then you have something hopefully to offer the person. That's why they are there. If you are in a hospital environment, you would assess a person from that aspect. And you would be able to invite that person into that kind of environment. And a hospital setting would be wonderful, and I'm so hoping that will be an open option for people in the world sooner than later, because that is so needed. And like the Glen Bay Hospital in the olden days, it's like 20 years ago or something, that they had an inpatient program. They also had an outpatient program, and I don't know, but probably some kind of educational program also. So that's ideal that you would have some kind of programs, different programs to offer. If you're coming from like a health center where you have doctors and nurses and different therapists, nutritionists, dietitians to work with, and there you would probably have educational and different level outpatient work if you were doing this kind of work through that kind of a place. And then you may have a seminar-based treatment center with different levels of outpatient help, like what I do. So I think where you are coming from is always going to determine and then you have to, of course, understand, okay, do I have the facilities and can I really take that person in? Is the person in a place or in a way that is too severe for me to handle? And quite often that has been the case, that I know that I cannot really help the person that just, would need to be in a hospital setting. And then that is something that I will recommend, that they go and have their physicians, their doctors, get them into some kind of a health spa or hospital to get help, at least to begin with. It's the same as if I got a person that I obviously was an alcoholic or was using some kind of medical drugs or something. I would recommend to that person that they deal with that addiction first. before that they would come and work with me. So these are the kind of things that you will get and learn to distinguish from the dimensions, from the treatment levels, from the DSM, questions also. So I just wanted to say, as we are, I think the dimensions. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth here. The dimensions here is, what I use them for, basically, I'm going to just tell you that, is to just understand how and what kind of information I need to get from my clients. And so that is basically what I've used these dimensions. I don't personally do a form like this one, like you have in the case. I don't, I evaluate from my questionnaire. But I know that this is the information that I need to get from the person. So this is the questions that I ask to get these information. And do you want to ask any more questions on the dimensions before I go further?
Yes, on dimension number 4, on page 10.
Yeah.
Can you specify the part at the end of dimension 4? It says, does the patient appear to be compliant only to avoid a negative consequence, or does she appear to be internally distressed in a self-motivated way about food abuse problems? Can you explain this maybe in a clearer way? Yeah.
So when a person has, severe consequences because of their eating, and overweight maybe, or underweight, or whatever the problem is for the person, some doctor might say, okay, you need to do something about this, and if you don't, I won't treat you anymore, or something. So that would be like that would be something that might even happen. I don't think it would, actually. I don't think a doctor would say that, but they might. And I can't help you if you don't do something about your weight. That is something that quite a lot of doctors will say to their clients. They're not going to know what they're supposed to do, but they need to do something about their weight, because otherwise they can't help them with the diseases that are coming up. So that would be, it would be also a question if a spouse, for example, would say to a wife or a husband, if you don't do something about your eating and you're overweight or underweight or whatever's happening with you, I'm just going to divorce you, That might be to avoid a negative consequence. So it is always better that a person will come into treatment because they sincerely feel that it is, it's really affecting their way of life, and they want to sincerely do something, not just because somebody else is going to divorce them, but because they want a better life. And that they understand that they are having a problem with eating and or weight, and they are not able to do it themselves. They will have tried probably multiple times, probably day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, to wake up each morning, and now it's going to be the day that I'm not going to eat like yesterday. I'm going to behave. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to do exercise. I'm going to do that and do this. And they haven't been able to do it in spite of sincere longing to do that. And so they finally have knocked their head on that stone often enough to understand that they're not going to be able to do it on their own, and they need help. So I hope that answers answers your question, Romina.
Esther, I saw Anna as having both.
As a what?
Let me try it without this microphone. I saw Anna as having both her boss and her husband were, she saw as sources that were pushing her into this, but then she expressed also her own feelings, internal feelings, but I still saw, I don't know if you just would call those understanding consequences or feeling pressured or forced into doing something.
Well, I agree with you, and I think actually she feels forced, and in some ways, but I think also she may understand that there is a problem because of that she is being forced. And as difficult as it is for people to hear the truth from the people around them, and they will usually become very offended and defensive. Somebody is not muted. They will usually be very defensive once somebody addresses this problem. And I remember when I was, the few instances somebody said anything to me about my weight and eating, I wanted to, despite their heads off, I went ballistics on them. And this is quite often the case. We are so defensive. So, but, when somebody, like at our boss or a spouse or a friend will say something in a loving way, that is being a friend. That is being support. In spite of us not wanting to hear it, they are giving us a huge gift, but it may take still a long time for us to really face up to it. But there is intervention. I'm sure you've heard about intervention for people with addictions that the whole family gathers, or a group of friends, and quite often with some kind of a counselor with them to really tell the person how they are affected by the the usage of a person, and that is quite often quite strong. And I know in instances in my own family where that really worked to get the person into treatment, that kind of intervention. So
in Anna's scenario, though, the boss is more like threatening her, and the husband is attributing all their marital problems to her weight. So it wasn't really exactly done in a loving way.
No, it's more that the husband is feeling sexually deprived, I guess. And the boss, of course, obviously needs to have people that don't have this kind of problems, overweight problem or whatever it is. And so he is kind of forced to say something to her, in order for her to be able to be, work there. So let's keep going a little bit. We're losing time now. We have only about 6 minutes left for this session. And obviously we're not going to quite finish this one, going through the whole material today. And that is okay, because in spite of us, I will give you and get you the treatment chapter, hopefully by Monday, and maybe earlier, we'll see. It's in the trenches, and so that you will start to be able to work on that. But for next week. I really do want you to take a look at all the material that I sent you, and keep working on this chapter basically, so that next week we can kind of, especially after we hear Bitten, and actually I might even ask Bitten for next Saturday to start the session instead of doing the second part of it, so that we can, as a result of her talk, would that be okay with everybody if I would do that? Instead of having her come after 2 hours, that we would have her do her talk first, if she can, that is. And then we can use the remainder of the time to kind of finish the work on assessment and the first 4 chapters, basically, kind of conclude them. Anybody objecting to that? If Bitness is able to, I would have to ask her. Okay. Since nobody says no, I'm going to say okay, and everybody is good with that. But otherwise, if she can't, we will of course just finish going over the material next time. Okay. So in the dimensions, again, it's asking the questions that we need to know in order to measure out what kind of treatment a person will need and what kind of individualized help and assistance the person will need. Here is the interdisciplinary team and assessment. This is what I've always wanted to have with me. Is interdisciplinary team of professionals working around the person. And for so many that are in the trenches of this disease, we would need a counselor, addiction counselor. We would need a nutritionist or a dietitian to help with a lot of things there. We would need a physician and a nurse to follow up on how they're feeling and what's happening with them physically. And quite often a psychiatrist or a psychologist or some kind of psychotherapist, or some kind of a treatment for emotional trauma and different things. This would be the ideal situation to work with people in food addiction. And as we go into the treatment part and where we're going to be talking about that, it's for me the most interesting part. Basically, it's a lot comes up and will come up for us there, and in understanding what kind of help a person will need and where that comes from. And so I'm not going to use the time now for that, actually. So I think I need to, at this point, just ask if there's 1 or 2 questions, and then close this session so I can prepare for Teresa to come in. So the remainder of this chapter is for this week and next weekend to kind of finalize and hopefully have learned what we need to learn about. So
I had one question.
Yes.
It's to do with the second activity in this chapter, and it says in chapter 1, the food abuse withdrawal symptoms was introduced, and then it asks us to refer back to the exercise involving Anna. And in light of this activity just completed, how can information in the WAFA be used to support your decision? And so I was a little bit confused about this question because I feel like Anna really I mean, she may be in a little bit of withdrawal, but not really, because she hasn't really started a program of withdrawal, a program of recovery yet. She's sort of getting a week at a time and then going back to the food. And so I was a little perplexed about how to answer this question because I wasn't sure if she was really in full withdrawal yet. It seems like she goes back to the food before it gets pretty bad.
And you know, Sandra, that is an answer within itself. If the person goes back to the food, they're most likely in withdrawal because they've started feeling so bad that they want to use again in order to feel good again. So that's one part of it. And then I do agree with you that it is. The withdrawal symptoms is more of a instrument to use as people go further into treatment, in my opinion. Okay. And have treatment that is really abstinent. You know, obviously, for example, if she was stopped eating certain things, she might still have been eating different things that triggered her brain to eat more, you know. So she was obviously and probably not abstinent at all in the prior, when she was trying to get off eating and eating healthy or whatever it was that she was doing. So that's all considerations. So don't worry too much about the WAPA. It's an instrument to be used where it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. That helped.
You're welcome. So anybody else with a final question or concern? I just wanted to say with the DSM that we have a DSM-4 there and the ICD-10, that's the WHO, the World Health Organization measurements for addiction, and I am in the trenches of, and I will set up the 5 in there, you know, before we finalize it, and it has a little bit of change in it. It's different from the DSM-4, the DSM-5, and I know Bitten is going to tell you all about that because she feels that it's gone backwards. But I'm using this as of now. So we'll learn more about the DSM-5 and the differences in the two by next weekend. Okay, and then assessment scenarios here. And I hope that the assessment, here's like forms that you can use in the back, which are also might be helpful. I know they were for me when I was learning something similar. And they have here, what other questions would you add? So that would be interesting to see what kind of questions you would add to that form, for example. It'd be good to hear that next weekend also. So what kind of, what you would be doing different. So what would you be doing different from any of what is here? That would be interesting to hear. Okay, so now I'm going to close this session, and we will resume in 6 minutes with Teresa. Thank you. Let me see.